Special episodes deserve special introductions, and this is a very, very special episode. I have got a guest on with me today who is going to take us inside the European Ryder Cup win. He was there, he was part of it, and he was a very big part of it. And he's been somebody that I've been trying to get on for a while. And rather amazingly, just last week, he was on the Rick Shields Golf podcast. So he is a heavy hitter guest. But the reason I'm so excited is that because not only are we going to be transported back to that magical weekend 3 months ago in New York and relive all those memories and the key moments, and we're going to get some wonderful insights about that. But our guest is going to give us some insights that you'll be able to use from within that Ryder Cup environment and strategies that you can use in your game if you're playing today. It's going to be that simple, that effective, and that good. So strap yourselves in. This is an amazing, amazing episode of our podcast. I'd also like to give a little special shout out to Penwitham Golf Club. They hosted us for the day. Tom's a member there. It's a beautiful golf course and a beautiful golf club and a beautiful golf clubhouse. We were very, very thankful to them. I'm also thankful to Tom Dolan, who is the professional over there. He was wonderful on the day. He allowed us use of their brand new indoor swing studio that they've got set up. They've got a couple of bays, top of the range simulators, which is going to be great for their members. And we were so grateful to be able to use that for our interview with Tom. So when you jump on the YouTube version of our podcast, you will notice we're actually sat in one of the bays.
Like, this isn't done yet. And I was getting text messages from people at home like, enjoy the champagne. You know, like that thing about being part of a team and that responsibility. For some reason, some people grow with it. Whistling Straits was bad. And sometimes you do get that, don't you? You get a team that's really well prepared. They're very good at what they do. They're really well connected. They've got a sense of purpose and it just clicks. I don't know if Rory's plan was to say, shut the F up and then hit it to 3 foot.
Bonus episode. Inside Europe's Ryder Cup win. I'll take you back to a Sunday evening a few short months ago. I was gathering in a pub with Jim, who's not here today, in sheer excitement, if I'm honest, and looking forward to a relatively stress-free night out. What happened over the next 6 hours was that I experienced the whole range of human emotions, from excited expectation via shredded nerves and disbelief to utter joy and immense pride. As a European, on that evening of the 28th of September, we all probably went through the mill that night. But in the end, we prevailed and celebrated that really rare thing, an away Ryder Cup win. Well, today we're going to transport you back to the Ryder Cup and from Ryder Cups of years past, as I'm joined by a very special guest who was one of the people I sent a message to that night, sharing my pride and happiness at what had just happened. But before we carry on, whatever platform you're on, please, could you hit follow or subscribe? Our numbers have started to reflect the fact that you are doing that, but we are still looking at the back-end stats, and there's definitely more followers we can get. So for that microsecond of your time, please just hit follow or subscribe. Now back to the episode. As I mentioned, I'm joined by a very special guest today, someone I've actually been trying to get on the podcast for a long time. His name's Tom Young, and he's a performance psychologist specializing in team dynamics and leadership. Now, he's provided psychological support at the absolute pinnacle of sport. So we're talking about things like being part of the coaching team for an Olympic gold medalist, Keely Hodgkinson. He was the head of psychology at Wigan Warriors when they had their amazing 2024 season. And probably most relevant to us, he has supported a very famous Ryder Cup golfer, somebody we're all in love with at the minute, and that's Tommy Fleetwood. And generally, he's been supporting the Ryder Cup team through the wins of 2018, 2023, and just back in September. He's also worked with St Helens RFC, England Rugby League, the Belgian Football Federation, and Manchester United Women. And he's written a book, which we've got over here as a lovely visual aid, called The Making of a Leader, which is about lessons leaders in business can take from elite sport. I'm tired reading all that out. So welcome, Tom. Thank you for coming onto the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Now take us back to that incredible Sunday in New York. We all went through all those emotions that I just described, but how was it being so close to the action?
It was probably exactly how you felt watching it in the pub or at home or anything like that. So if you go back to the Sunday, I suppose specifically for me, I was to paint a picture. People think you sometimes you're on the course or you're with a certain group, and that would be perfect if you were there when you kind of that winning moment happens.
Yeah.
In reality, as you know, the Ryder Cup is actually quite good to watch on TV.
Yeah.
So you want to have a whole idea of what's happening, what's kind of unfolded in different games, where the overall match is at. So I was actually in the gym watching it with a load of coaches and physios, and at the Ryder Cup there's like a king caddy called Julian who does all the kit and all that. So he was there,
Right,
and
okay.
the guys sorting all the kits out were in there. So we were kind of just pacing up and down, which I imagine like that kind of nerves, and you're kind of thinking like, where's this point coming from? And
Yeah.
you kind of know the Americans at that point, like they're all very good at golf still. So they're going to have a spell. You just don't really want to have it on the Sunday when there's so many points to play for, and there's this thing, momentum starts to shift.
Yeah.
So you're starting to think, and there is that panic. You're basically just a fan at that point. Well, that's how I felt.
Yeah.
And then obviously it turns when Shane hits that putt, and the place just goes mad. Like, as in, like, it's just like a load of kids celebrating. Basically, that's how it looked.
Yeah.
And then we ran from there out to the 18th, and then obviously watched the rest of it come in. So I think when you're there, obviously you feel that belonging. You feel like part of that group. But I'd say the range of emotions will be exactly the same as what everyone is feeling at home.
Could you feel that kind of tension rising throughout the day? Like we were feeling like you say, where's that point going to come from? Was that kind of permeating through the group? Could you sense that was the kind of feeling amongst the backroom staff kind of thing?
I think maybe just when there was that, what was it, like an hour or a couple of hours where it felt like, oh, those first couple of matches that they kind of looked like could easily have been 2 half points, and Fitzpatrick obviously, and you kind of think Aberg's winning his point, you think we're going to have this done here. So at that point you are just, you do feel that momentum because the crowd and everything's getting up. They've got complete freedom in that they've got nothing to lose essentially. But you also have faith in the fact that, these guys are probably going to get this done. They're very good at golf. They've played amazing over the first 2 days. Yeah. And you put the kind of faith in them, obviously.
Yeah. Because I think that kind of positive mentality that it felt like the Europeans kind of went into that Ryder Cup with, that like you said, that kind of permeated through that whole weekend. And obviously in the four balls and the foursomes, they were just head and shoulders above the Americans. But then even still, when they needed it, they needed that little bit of grit to kind of push them over the line. Ultimately, they kind of had that in the bag, didn't they?
Well, that's it. It almost went too well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I think they probably talked about that the night before. The kind of like, this isn't done yet. And I was getting text messages from people at home like, enjoy the champagne. And this was before Sunday had even started.
Yeah.
So that mentality can kind of creep in, like, to the fans. They think, oh, this is done.
Yeah.
And that's going to free the opposition up anyway. Yeah. So they're probably thinking the same thing. So it's probably just guarding against that. But it's funny you say, like, the grit and the persistence, because people talk about, oh, everything's gone great. There will be times where you're under the gun. Yeah. And you've got to be able to kind of manage yourself through that. Yeah. And I think the guys did that. Yeah, brilliantly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was a bit worried for the structural integrity of that green when Shane Lowry was jumping up and down, to be perfectly honest with you. And then when he was grabbing his chest, I was like, my God, he's having a heart attack on national TV here. Like, what's going on? But I mean, just the unbridled joy that was there. And then
it's like a kid celebrating.
It was
yeah,
absolutely
absolutely,
like a kid celebrating. Yeah. And you listen to them. And here's the thing that we've had a chat pre-episode today. Yeah. And we're talking about what sort of things we're going to potentially talk about. But we were sort of skirting a little bit around this camaraderie element that the European team have got in bucket loads. Yeah. And how different from the outside world, how different it looks. Like, is that something that is palpable when you're there? Or is that actually still a little bit more of a myth, do you think?
Yeah. And can I just tag something onto that, I think, as well? Because it's something I want to ask you in terms of compare that to the US team as well, because I think a lot is talked about that kind of individualism versus collectivism of the Europeans. Yeah. Is that something that's genuinely palpable throughout those teams, or is that something that's just kind of a bit of media hype?
There is a lot, like with the Ryder Cup. I mean, there's that book, isn't it, The Captain's Myth, I think it's called. So as in the narrative of a Ryder Cup and the culture and the leadership side of things can almost take on a life of its own, because it's one outcome, essentially. And you've got to be wary of that. But I can only really speak from the European point of view.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And that collectiveness, especially over the last couple of years when you've got that consistency. And obviously I've been involved since 2018. But this group now, it definitely feels like that. And you can kind of see that maybe a good group of them will be, you know, like have an interest in team sports as well, perhaps.
Yeah.
So like, yes, you end up being a golfer, but you enjoy rugby, you enjoy football.
Yeah, and I've probably played those things at school. And
Yeah,
things like that.
exactly. So you can and I mean, McIntyre plays shinty, doesn't he? That crazy sport in Scotland that looks mega, to be fair. I think he used to get in trouble because he'd go back and play that when he should be playing golf. But like that team spirit, if you think about it, strip it back to just human beings, we want to be part of something that is bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, in order to survive, going back years and years. So actually, when you get the opportunity to do that as an individual sports person, and there is a real special feeling to it, and there's a lot of people buying into it, then it is, you know, it is very, very special.
So would you kind of almost argue then that on a human level, essentially it's the same for both teams, because they're both kind of want to buy into that kind of collective group, you know, mentality?
I think there's that consistency though, isn't it? It's like, okay, what is this group for? What's the purpose? What brings us together? And that's probably really strong with, like, so for instance, the Ryder Cup, Team Europe, they do so much. You'll have seen when Luke did his behind the scenes tour of the locker room, right? So all the messaging, the stuff on Sevi, you know, that real kind of emotion that's around it. And also probably the family feel, I think, of like the DP, like the European tour. Yeah. So you saw it at the weekend just gone in terms of like the culmination of that season. You got players coming back, they play on the PGA Tour, but they also come back and support those events. And then when one wins and one loses, they're genuinely kind of, yes, they're gutted, but they're also happy for their kind of colleague. So you see their journeys. I do think there's a family feel to that tour as well. But they just do it so well, the backroom staff with Team Europe, in terms of, like I said, the messaging, the environment, just throughout, spending time together. And maybe there's a smaller pool of players, I don't know, that you have that kind of tightness that kind of lends itself to that as well. But you've got history, haven't you? So this belonging, you're part of history, you're part of that Team Europe for this one match, two match, three matches. But you track it all the way back through history, and this is just your moment. And there's a lot more to come after, and there's been a lot more that's come before. Yeah. So I just think they have a real sense of that kind of journey that they're part of.
Yeah. And that messaging, that was kind of part of what your role was ultimately in that team, wasn't it? What sort of things do you tap into to kind of pick out what that messaging might look like, just for, you know, a generic kind of?
Yeah, I think to be fair, it's probably not my role within that environment, but it's something that they do very well. So I think Luke, as a leader, is very consistent in his messaging. Yeah. So they did a lot around New York and the role of, I think he spoke about this in his welcome speech or in the opening ceremony, about the role of Europeans in the creation of New York. Yeah. You know, so it's not just like a random thing that he's thought about. It's something he's plotted and reflected on like a year before, and he's built it into all of his messaging as he goes through.
That was potentially one of the best speeches I've perhaps ever heard. There were so many subtle things that he said in there that were like that, like that lineage, like European lineage, like kind of European in New York, you know. And then it was a bit like, we're going to win you over by being good, and that's how we're going to do it. Yeah. And then, but then he was also like, but we're here to win. Yeah. So it wasn't like, we're not making numbers up, you know, and we're not putting ourselves up as favourites or whatever, but, you know, we've come here to win this trophy.
Yeah, they kind of embrace the underdog tag.
Yeah, and we're going to win your hearts and minds. Yeah. And obviously he delivered it in such a better way than, you can't say this, Tom, of course, I don't expect you to, but so much better than Keegan Bradley, who just looked like he was reading off auto cue, and Luke Donald's just professional. He just looked like he was... You could see he was reading it on second, third view. You could see he's reading it, but it's just the way he's just smooth. I think he's such a consummate professional.
That's a good word. That is a good word for him, I would say. I mean, like his message with because it was an away match, and are you going to be part of this special group of players that have won away from home in a Ryder Cup? And they had, in the warm-up, the practice days, they had kit on that reflected the colour of the kit when they won those events. Yeah. You know, so just little things like that. The guys spot that, and they see the attention that's gone into it, the players and the caddies in this special week. But it's also, they're not just doing it for the sake of it. It's supporting all the messaging and the culture that they've built over a number of years, you know.
Yeah. Attention to detail.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to rewind a little bit, Tom. So it's probably a bit of a mouthful in how I described what you do, and people
Yeah.
are probably just going like, all right, what does Tom actually
What does that
do?
actually look like?
But I think it's worth, like, I know what you do, but I think it's really worth from your words, like, in that environment. So actually, this is Ryder Cup specific, but I'm going to bring up, and I brought up all those teams that you've worked with in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what role do you provide for them, and what support are you giving them?
Yeah, it can vary depending on the environment that you're in. Essentially, I'm looking at the human side of performance. So you mentioned team dynamics, leadership. If you think about it, we're all people just trying to perform. So I'll work with organisations and teams, whether that's sport or kind of businesses or people in education. It's just people really to me, and it's kind of helping people get out their own way. To put it simply, like understanding what might be holding them back, understanding the makeup of a team and how you might communicate better with somebody, looking at the culture of an organisation and what you want to keep and what you want to change. So it's really just that kind of the human side of performance. So you might go into, so for the Ryder Cup, for instance, my role is very clear in that, so I am not the sports psychologist for every player on that team. My background is sports psychology, but in this environment, I'm looking at team dynamics. So how do you manage different personalities? If you put two players together, what are you going to get? Because within that role, you're working with a captain over the years, different captains, who is an individual sports person, who now is given this role as a captain, and you're expected just to lead a load of people that you're normally playing against. And you've got to do that in a way where you're authentic, because they'll spot if you're not, but also you've got to adapt a little bit. Because they are all playing each week for themselves, essentially. And suddenly you're now playing for this bigger purpose. And as we know, it's not for money. So in that role...
which team you're on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, talk for us. So in that role, it's very specific. It's around helping that captain just understand the people in that team. And that sits alongside like the data that Eduardo Molinari does and the player's perspective, obviously Luke's instincts as a leader as well. Whereas you might go into a rugby team and you're kind of like embedded week by week, you're in the rhythm of a season, and you might be working with an individual about overthinking or regaining composure during a match or how you communicate a certain message in a team meeting. So that's very, very different. Or you could work individually with somebody where it's obviously more kind of private and they've come to you independently, understanding what might be holding them back. And sometimes you just get someone who wants to improve. It's not always there's a problem. And I need to solve it. Sometimes it's someone goes, I'm all right at this stuff, but I think I could be better.
Well, you're dealing in that top, getting that extra 1% out, which could be the difference. Like we'll take Keely Hodgkinson, for instance. That could be the difference between gold and silver. And it's that one little bit. I'm slightly happier than I was before. Now I can go and do it.
We all do it. So we're at a golf club now. Like everyone playing today will be doing some form of psychology. Some people will be better than others. But the way that we think drives how we behave and perform. So we're all doing it. And it's like, when people say, you say your voice in your head, and someone goes, I don't have a voice in my head. It's like, that is your voice in your head telling you that it's not there. So it's kind of mastering that inner voice, really. So it can be a whole collection of things, but it's always around the people. So I'm not an expert in, someone can argue, any of these sports. But sometimes that can help as well, because you're not going in looking at somebody's swing or how they might pass a rugby ball or a tackle technique or any of this stuff. You're just looking at them as a human first, and then them as an athlete. So that's kind of where I try and approach it from.
And in terms of the application of what you do, would you say it's pretty much the same application to go and talk to Tommy Fleetwood as it is to go and speak to a CEO of a business? Is it pretty much the same skills that you're applying, or is it a very different kind of?
It's quite a good question, because you obviously reflect on it, and sometimes you think, have I added value there? Or and sometimes it's just asking good questions. So sometimes you can go with a plan and you're going to deliver something. Obviously, if it's an individual, you never quite know where they're going to take it. Like I've had sessions before where someone just talks to you. And you're kind of going, okay, whereas your urge is to try and help somebody. So sometimes you've got to try and sit in the moment. But I'd say it's the same skills. Like you've got to build trust. You've got to listen well. You've got to ask good questions. And then you've also got to know when to push those people and challenge and push back a little bit. And I think they're skills that you build as you go through it, to be honest. You have this theoretical knowledge, but if you can't apply it and you can't connect with people, then, you may as well stay at uni.
And yeah. That's a good point. But yeah, this is from kind of the outside looking in, but just and maybe a bit of my own experience in my kind of working career and stuff. But I think if you look at some of those high-profile managers like Luke Donald, people like Gareth Southgate, who probably aren't those traditional kind of macho, dictatorial kind of characters.
Yeah.
Is that something that you see is changing both in sports and in business as well? Is that a mindset that's changing for people, what their expectations of a leader are?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And I think people have realised that there's no specific way, like one way of doing it. I think we want to take shortcuts, don't we? So it'd be really neat and tidy if there was like one type of leadership and one leadership profile. Yeah. So in the past, probably that kind of charismatic leader type. So you're really assertive and you're really kind of persuasive. You have these social skills where you can kind of get people to do stuff.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really last. It might help for like a quick buzz. Yeah. But if that's not you, like I said before, people spot it. Yeah. So I can the ones that kind of come to mind sometimes, you can compare Jurgen Klopp. Yeah. Right. Who might be a little bit more of that charismatic leader, right? With Carlo Ancelotti, who has a book literally called Quiet Leadership. Yeah. So introvert, extrovert, both have got a lot of trophies. Yeah. So there's all these examples where you could kind of go, right, what's Serena Wiegman like? Or what's Luke Donald like? And to me, I do think there's no like personality type for it. There will be traits, like it might be detail, it might be resilience, like you mentioned before. Yeah. Like with Luke, for instance, just to talk a little bit about him from my perspective, like you said before, Nish, like with his speech, it's very, what word did you use? Smooth, yeah. So it's a good way to describe him, because he was a vice captain for a couple of matches before. Yeah. And what I was aware of is just how he will take things away, he will apply them if he thinks they're valid. Yeah. So you got to give him time to think things through. And he has this patience and a thoroughness and a professionalism and like a calming side to him. And I think that side also enables him to build really good relationships with people, to build trust. So it's a people focus, but it's not let me talk to you. Yeah. It's how can I help you? So it's almost like a coaching mentality. How do I understand you and how can we help you get out your own way in order to perform? Yeah. But then people hear that and go, oh, he sounds like a really nice guy. And yeah, but I've seen him make decisions like that, like on the ground, if something needs sorting. Yeah, yeah. And also, you don't get to world number one and win all those tournaments all that Ryder Cup success as a player and as a captain without having that grit and that toughness. So I think for leaders, it's about having that like starting point, being authentic, and then being able to flex within that. So not being everything to everyone, but knowing when I might need to adapt my style. Yeah. So okay. I do think it's changing, Chris. I think people are becoming more and more aware of it. So I'll work with the leader sometimes, and it might be they need to become more empathic because they are quite dominant, or they're quite good at telling people what to do. And suddenly it's like, well, I've got to build relationships with this new generation that are coming through. Yeah. And telling them to be in the office 5 days a week isn't going to work, because they'll just leave and do something else. So who's going to change there? Probably the leader has to change. Yeah. So I do think it's evolving. Yeah. People are realizing there's no set way of doing it.
Yeah. Now, I know I had to force you to do it because you didn't want to plug it, but is this the kind of stuff you're covering in your book?
Yes.
Yes. Wonderful. I thought
it has been out 5 years, Nish. So I'm sure there's a few still knocking about somewhere.
I don't get a chance to read magazines these days, mate. The kids are keeping me too busy with that. Somebody bought me a book the other day, and I was like, well, "What's this?"
Yeah, what we're going to do with that?
It's weird. This loo roll or something. Like, what am I supposed to
I did spend the first few months after it came out in Preston Waterstones, just shifting it to head height for people, and moving Elon Musk to the side and putting Tom Young in the way.
Marketing.
There you go. Yeah,
so it's best.
Yeah, there you go.
It's in the bestsellers list again.
Why is that in there? Why is that in the kids' book?
It keeps coming back. Yeah. Oh no, I love it. Now, I mentioned at the intro, Jim is a big Saints fan. I'm a big Wigan fan. I say big. I'm a Wigan fan. And
it means he's been to Wigan once.
I'm gutted. I drove through Wigan once, looked at the stadium, and I'm gutted Jim's not here, because this would be a segment that I know he'd love, because there was a glorious season in 2024 for Wigan. Now, again, you were head of psychology for that snapshot in time that was just this written in their history now. Yeah. How does it feel to be part of that? Forget all what you did, but how does it feel to be part of that? Like when you wake up in the morning, what does that feel like?
I suppose you're in it in that you're. What's great if you strip it back? What's great about rugby league for me is kind of fundamentally the people. Like the All Blacks thing about no dickheads across. They might argue, but like Saints, England, Wigan.
Yeah.
I don't think I haven't met someone that I would class as a dickhead.
Yeah.
So you typically get a lot of good people who are very kind of humble, but also very open to stuff. Now I've obviously had the fortune or honour or whatever of being part of two very successful clubs historically. So you're at the top of the game. I know a few people might argue with that after this season. But I think what they do really well is that sense of connection.
Yeah.
Like a little bit like we're talking about with Team Europe, but they have the luxury of doing it week by week and building a season and you almost theming different weeks and things like that. So it feels great because as a psychologist, I kind of work on my own a lot. You work with different people. So to get the chance to be with a group, and I mean, in reality, they're doing it all, aren't you? You're just a small part of it, but you just get that, like I said, belonging before. You get that feeling of connection with it, and that's kind of what you take away. Like I didn't grow up as a rugby league fan. I used to watch Wigan. Like my dad worked in Wigan, so they were the team I would kind of follow when they were on TV. But I grew up playing rugby union, like half an hour up the road in Preston. So you're not a fan of that. You become a fan of the people. So people go, oh, you moved from Saints to Wigan. Obviously, that's a big thing. It's like moving from Liverpool to Everton or United to City. But it's the people that you connect with.
Yeah.
It's not, to me...
The badge is almost incidental.
Yeah, saying it's not the badge sounds a little bit dismissive, but what I mean is it's surprising how quickly when you make that move, you go in, well, I'm Wigan now because I think a lot of him and I really like him and I trust him and I love what he's doing. And you're like, all right, okay, that happened a lot quicker than maybe it should have done.
Yeah.
It's a whole rugby league family, isn't it? And that's
and they'll have matches and they'll like beat each other up and smash each other, and then they're together with England, and there is that trust and respect as well. So it's a really cool sport to have been part of, definitely.
Yeah.
And do you think? So like Nish mentioned, you've been part of some incredible sporting teams and some incredible sporting leaders. Do you think you've kind of taken little bits from each one of those leaders and kind of built that into your kind of pool of skill sets and leadership styles and that kind of stuff? I
think so, because it's funny when you're writing a book on leadership, but you actually work on your own.
Yeah.
So you're like, I kind of feel like I'm not sure I'm the best.
Am I qualified?
Can you apply what you teach to other people to yourself, or is that more difficult?
I think it's difficult in the way that we all have, like, our brains all like to work in like shortcuts and autopilot. So you still have to remind yourself of this stuff, but you can watch a Luke Donald, and if you're working with someone like that and you don't take something from it, then you're a bit daft. You've got to kind of absorb that. So it might be give yourself a bit of time to think about something. It might be planning something in good time. That's the one thing I felt with Luke. It all felt like it was done with a lot of like time available.
Unlike
all
this
thought
podcast.
through. Hey, there you go. And then, so our head coach at Wigan, Matt Pete, I think he's a very unique coach in that we talked about being able to flex, but I think he can flex very naturally. So I've seen him be really vulnerable and share stuff with the group that's quite emotional. I've seen him mess about like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
But then I've seen him really go for people when it's not right. And he delivered a session during the season. I know we're obviously talking Ryder Cup, but he delivered this session and I was like, I've never seen a head coach do anything like that. In terms of, it's basically a session that I kind of think, well, should that not be me doing it? But he's got the connection. He's built that culture. He's been on that journey with them. Yeah. So when your head coach does it, and he has that relationship and that connection with them,
just the impact.
The impact's bigger because he's part of that group every day. I'm in like once a week.
Yeah.
So when he does it, it also communicates that this is important. We're not just got some guy in who's going to do it. I'm running it. And it's something we do each week or whatever. So for the head coach to buy in like that and then deliver it authentically, it was like, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So he's a pretty special leader.
Yeah. Well, he delivered something wonderful, didn't he, Jim? Yeah.
He did, Jim.
Okay, well, let's bring it back to the Ryder Cup, because obviously it's still fresh in our memories. Well, I hope it is anyway, if we didn't celebrate too much. But one of the things that really came out of that was the controversial atmosphere, and there was obviously, it was in the Americans' interest to build that up and stoke it as much as possible, and they did that. We don't need to talk about the American side. that's kind of almost irrelevant to us. But as Europeans and somebody who's in the inner sanctum almost of working out what our response to that is going to be, like, how do you deal with that? Because the word bear pit is probably not too far off the right description for that.
Yeah.
It sounded horrific at times.
There were definitely some moments, like I walked out, it must have been day 2. I think I've probably been watching it on TV for too long and thought I'd better get out there. And it was hot. There were beers thrown everywhere. There was like all this dust and sand was kind of like coming up. You could smell weed because that's legal in New York, which I was like, this feels weird.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
There was, when you think about it, when you're watching it.
No, and it was like, whoa, all your senses are kind of like switched on at that point.
Now it all makes sense.
Yeah. But then the crowds were also, in certain instances, I felt they were far away. So almost like if you're further away from the players, maybe you have to shout a bit more and be a bit more abusive or whatever.
Yeah.
And there was some good-natured things. And then there was obviously, like, I think the McIlroy-Lowry match was particularly bad when they pulled the state troopers out there.
Yeah.
And in terms of the preparation, so it was intense. And I think the players have spoken about it since. And certain players will have had a more extreme experience than others. Obviously, some were the clear targets, weren't they, and the families and things like that. And I think that's where it oversteps the mark. And I think it might have been on the Gary Neville and Roy Keane, the podcast on there, the Stick to Football.
There's no other
we don't listen to the
podcast.
No, well, it's football on
it.
Okay.
I'm afraid.
What are you on about? They don't exist.
Yeah, but anyway, it was Roy Keane talking about it. He was like, well, it's just, they never play. It's like playing at Liverpool or like playing at Anfield. And you're like, to me, I described it as, it's like getting off the bus as a Man United player maybe at Anfield.
Yeah.
And walking from the bus to the stadium with a load of opposition fans abusing you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've got to do that for 5 hours.
Yeah.
And you've got to do your job in between it.
Yeah.
Like you've got to hit every shot and you've got to slow down and stop in front of that guy and you've got to do all that. So that's kind of, it's a bit of a funny description maybe, but that's kind of how I...
No, I think that's about...
It's making that walk whilst having to try and play your shots as well. You're not going into a changing room to then get warmed up and then go out, where those voices kind of get drowned out into one. And then the preparation would be, I think, down to Luke. One of the things he was really good at, I think, and it's probably because he's done it twice as well. And he challenged me. He said, we can't just do what we've always done. So how are we going to go a little bit deeper? So my role in understanding the personalities and things like that, it's a bit like how will these guys maybe respond under pressure? What might the early signs of someone being under stress be?
Yeah.
If we put two guys together, what's that going to be amongst that pressure? How can we kind of predict that?
Yeah.
And then obviously the stuff they've talked about. So they had the VR, right? So McIlroy's come out and talked about that. I think they talked about it before it started.
Mentioned it before, yeah.
Oh, okay, they're probably going to get abuse for that now as well. But like to go to that degree, and I think some players probably thought, oh, that was quite cool. And some players will have really enjoyed it and kind of got into it a little bit more. And they had the choice between the audio. They could kind of dial up the ferocity of what they were hearing in their ears. So that's quite, we talk about marginal gains, but willingness to go, right, we're doing that this time. And we're just going to put it in front of the players. And I think you've got to respect the fact that these guys are individual athletes. So I might give you something and give you the same thing. And you go, that sounds like a load of rubbish. And you go, that sounds great. I want to do it. Yeah. So you've got to respect the fact that they'll have their own teams and they'll make their own decisions and things like that.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the preparation, he was very clear in his messaging about players being able to have a response under that stress and pressure. So not telling them what it should be, but saying that he expected you to be able to respond.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you're then... I don't know if Rory's plan was to say, shut the F up and then hit it to 3 foot. If it was, then that's a pretty phenomenal response, isn't it? Yeah. I think that's my plan as well, but I'm not sure I can do it.
Don't execute
I can do the first
Yeah, exactly. And then
and actually, you brought up a really, really good point there, and it did feel that way from television. I've mentioned this a few times on our podcast, and I have been lucky enough to have gone to 2 Ryder Cups.
Yeah.
And so do know, if you're actually there watching it, sometimes you haven't got the foggiest what's actually going on. It's better to watch it on TV because you get an idea of the momentum. But it was incredible to watch on TV that every time there was a flashpoint and every time you thought, oh, hang on, this could start to go a bit, we always had a response. There was always something. Somebody pulled out something. And I this is where it was like, it felt better on TV to watch this because you could see what's happening maybe in a different match.
Yeah.
And then that got you in a better mood sort of watching it.
Yeah.
And I sort of felt about that Sunday that almost when the Americans went, hang on a minute, we just need to play some good golf here and we can win this Ryder Cup and pull off this amazing comeback.
Yeah.
And then that's when it started happening rather than just going, let's use all these gimmicks of running down the fairway with a flag and stuff like that. We don't need that.
Yeah.
We think we're better than them or we know we're better than them, whatever.
Yeah.
Let's do that. And I just found it was a fascinating interplay that. And actually, again, it was clutch moments that just got it over the line for us.
So you're talking about clutch moments. The best examples for me was Shane Lowry obviously hits his approach shot on the 18th when we were back in the gym watching it on TV. And he's given this interview 2 weeks later. I think they were playing in a pairs thing or whatever. And he talked about it and he said, obviously he's hit this shot to, 8 foot or whatever it was, further away maybe than it actually was, how it felt. And he talked about how in that moment, so your brain goes, shit, like this is a massive moment, like, and
it's a big moment.
For us, what it wants to do is speed you up. So get this done, like not consciously, but subconsciously we speed up under pressure, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And he's probably gone, shit, what, like, there's a bit in his mind that might go, what if this happens? What if that happens? But he talked about reframing it to go, how cool would it be if I hold this putt? This is something I've dreamt of since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So from hitting that shot to putting his club back in the bag and walking up, he's reframed it in his mind. And he's almost like dialed up a more optimistic, rather than thinking about the threat, he's dialed up the optimistic side of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
To be able to then, and obviously to then be able to then go and deliver it. So that was, to me, a great example of like a little technique where you can reframe it.
Yeah.
And that's something he obviously did quite naturally with the caddy. So it shows the role of the caddy as well. But just a really good example. It feels quite simple, but to be able to do it under that pressure in that short amount of time is pretty remarkable.
That's fascinating, isn't it? Because that is something you could take to the course. Like if we went out today now, this is good for Chris because he does go into some downward spirals. not mentioning any rounds particularly, but Cruden Bay. It was a moody, misty morning, and Chris was moody and misty that day, and he did not enjoy that round.
Been there, yeah.
I was the opposite. I was just like, this is amazing. Like, what a great place, and consequently, you still shot a good round, but I think you just were down and out about that round.
Yeah.
But that's a great thing. It's like actually, what's going to happen when I do hit this, and it's a good thing. And I suppose all you're visualizing then is the good stuff.
Yeah. It's one of those though. I think it's where you start from. So if I'm playing, I am someone that sees the threats a little bit. So for that, sometimes that's really useful to go, right, well, what would the optimist be saying here? Like, how good's this? What a chance this is. How are you going to get this done? Whereas if someone's really like bold and quite reckless, there are certain times where you want them to just go chill out. Right, what's the best thing to do here? Like, really?
Yeah.
I know there's a tiny gap and you think you've channeled Tiger Woods.
There's always a gap.
Yeah.
There's always a gap.
But actually, in reality, just dial it back and just, people say take your medicine or whatever. But in that moment where you're thinking, you're also, suddenly you're over the ball, it's in your hands, you're taking a practice swing, and you're not really sure about what you're doing. And you end up sometimes doing neither. You kind of, you don't commit to anything. You don't commit to anything. So you end up kind of just going, nah.
Yeah.
So that would be an example of understanding where the individual starts from, like your personality, your character, how that plays out on the golf course, and where that might help you, but also where it might trip you up. And if it's going to trip you up, how are you going to respond? How are you going to catch yourself? Because, like I say, before you know it, you've hit one shot, then another, and you go, oh, I've done it again.
Yeah.
Which we all do, right?
Of course we do. Yeah,
I used to throw clubs. I'm a psychologist in golf. Yeah. Well, because you're used to being okay at most sports, and suddenly you start this new one, and it's like, shit, this is hard. And if I swing faster, it doesn't help.
And this is a frustratingly hard golf game as well.
And so I played.
Humbling.
You're talking about like Cruden Bay. So I played Port Rush for the first time, right?
Brilliant, nice.
And I'd been there for the Open in 2019, and stayed with a family we got quite close with, and we went over to play. And it was during COVID, so it was like we couldn't go abroad. But you could go in the UK. So the whole family went over, right? And so we're staying in this house, and he's a member, one of the guys from Port Rush. So I ended up playing it as a guest, which was
amazing.
Unbelievable. Like, I was like, this is your local course, like just balling round on a Wednesday night, like. And he's like, yeah, just pencil bag and throwing a few clubs down. Anyway, so you build it up in your head, maybe like you did, Chris, with Cruden Bay.
Yeah.
So I've got this Port Rush. I've never played it. I've got to play well. I've got to play well. So you start using words like I have to, I should.
Yeah.
Like you've been playing well at home, so you should play well. It's pissing it down.
Yeah.
It's the worst weather I've ever played golf in. You've got one lad who played for Ireland Rugby Union. Andrew Trimble was playing with us. Played 50 odd times. I mean, he's not a golfer, so it's not like standards or anything. But people you've not met before. Anyway, you build it up in your head, and the weather was awful. I played so bad. And talk about like dark mood and that. And it got to one hole, I think it was like the 13th or something, and they're all going, oh, this is where we can go in. This is the last bit we can go in, really. And I'm like, no, we're not going in. Like, I'm playing 18. I'm playing 18 holes. But you build it up in your head, don't you? And it takes away the enjoyment of it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I've been back a few more times now, and you kind of get a bit more comfortable. But I try now and just think, if I'm going somewhere like that, like almost to just have a match or just try and, a bit like you were saying this, like take it in, what a great day, because I'm worried about my scores when I'm playing at my own course.
Yeah.
And but it's hard. It's not, it's not easy to do if you're starting with really high expectations and standards.
Yeah.
So I
think that's probably the key difference between us, right? You've got to pass.
I've got
where
some
you've
expectations.
Been, and you've got to pass where
You've
got
got
none. I've got zero standards.
Talking about golf,
I'm sub to rate. There's everything, mate. Just that's the key to happiness, I think. Expect very little.
Yeah.
But, no, you've performed at a high level
in
the past. You can do this.
Yeah.
It's like, if I used to play badminton for uni and stuff like that. If I go out and try and play those shots now, I'm breaking my body, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in your head, you can still do it.
Yeah. And I think, do you know what?
I don't have
interesting.
that.
I think that's something over the course of doing this, I've probably come to terms with a bit more, because I think when I first started back, I'd not played for such a long time.
He's going to relax now, aren't you? And start getting
playing
good at golf.
But I think I've come to terms with that a little bit. Yeah.
In terms of entertainment, Chris, it's better if we have a yin and yang thing.
Sorry.
So you need to heat more
just edit
pressure.
it
Just
out.
get worse.
You have to score well.
But
I will score.
Those standards will also help you. Do you know what I mean? Like it will work against you at certain times.
Yeah.
But 80% of the time, it'll probably be something that's a strength. Like if you work with an athlete and those kind of things will be like, well, he's got really high standards, really high expectations, always driven, wants to get better, reflects on his game, goes and practices and applies that, then there's a load of good stuff. It's when that becomes really intense and it's like you start almost taking it personally, like you were shit today. Or that wasn't good enough. And you start taking it as like you as a human being.
My negative
as opposed
self-chat
to
is brilliant. Like we could do a whole podcast on that if we just wrote that down.
but like try and reframe it, even in a way if it's like funny or just try so it can, that inner voice can help you, because not going to be a
Tom on speed dial for when we finish playing sometimes and we're on the hour drive back home or something like that.
Afterwards,
I've got to say genuinely, there have been occasions when you're just like, chill out, Chris. You shot an 82.
I'm raging at an 82.
We played SNA and like Chris was like, oh God, that was the worst I've ever played at 93. I was like, I'm dreaming of shooting a 93 around here. And of course, I understand it's totally about your relative skill levels. But there are also times when you're like, no, that's terrible. And you got like 12 pars that day. Like, at what point are you saying that was a bad
what was
round
good?
of golf? But
at that point, if someone comes in and goes, but Chris, what was really good? You'd be like,
nothing.
Nothing.
I'm
but afterwards, reflecting, like I do think, like amateurs, and it's funny. I might give advice, but when I come and play, I'm still rocking up at the tee with no warm up, hitting a shot, hoping it's all right. But I often come and play just to mess about. Just play with mates that I've known for years and years. It's almost like when people start asking you for advice and then you see you not doing it. It's like, it's not great for business, that. So you try and just play with lads that you've known who basically can just take the piss out of each other.
I'm a full advocate of no warm-up.
Sometimes it works,
I just turn up, I just play. Actually,
whereas I obsessively need to warm up. So I need an hour and I need to go and I'll be at the range and I'll be, I need that.
I love that. I need it.
I need it.
You know,
but you
do you need it?
Probably not, because I actually play better without it usually. But
where is it that you had almost no warm-up and then you actually did all right? It wasn't the last Scottish
Cavendish, wasn't it, when we played Cavendish?
Oh, Cavendish, yeah. And like, you just...
It's like hangover. Sometimes you think, I'll be awful if I'm hungover, and then...
Oh, no, I'm awful hungover. That's
but
then you
go
holes at Ganton I'm never going to get back.
We've tried and tested all these methods this year.
Okay. That was one of my techniques, just have a few beers.
Honestly, we've tried everything to try and, sometimes. But, I think it's that, it's like the reframing is incredible, isn't it?
And you can apply it in life as well, to be fair. That, like, and teams do it as well. So we have to win. That's one. Or we always struggle or I never play well at this golf course. Or I never play the ninth hole well. Well, you're probably giving yourself a bit of a rough start with that.
Yeah.
Rather than
always ends up in the water.
Rather than when I did play it well, what happened, or what would I need to do in order to give myself the best chance of playing it well?
Yeah.
We all have these like beliefs, and sometimes it helps you because like, I always play the second well.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes it goes against you. So it's kind of just being aware of that in a voice as well. Someone said psychology can't beat physics to me. So if you've got the right, you could like make a great decision psychologically, but if your swing's a bit funky, you know, you can still mess up, and that's part of it, really.
That's
like,
a cracking word to describe it.
Yeah.
Funky.
Funky. Well, I wasn't particularly talking about your swing, but just in general.
Yeah.
Like I said to a guy, I think he was +5, played at SNA, and he's so good. I was like, is it not boring for you? Like, because he was going around with me, and he was like, is it not boring being that good at something? Like, in terms of, you'll probably go, no, I'd love to be that. I'd love to do it once.
Like, what?
But, you know, like, it's almost felt too easy. Like, part of golf is the struggle, isn't it? And I know they will have different struggles, because if you're not 3 under, you're kind of struggling. But is the grind and the fight and the bringing yourself back and managing yourself. So maybe you come off with a 85 when it could have been a 93 because you brought yourself back for that final 6 holes or whatever.
Yeah.
And I do think the struggle, that's why people kind of latch onto golf, especially like if it becomes your second sport after playing a team sport. It still gives, it's like, because you never complete it, do you? You're never going to.
Yeah.
So if you're a perfectionist, you're never going to get there.
Yeah. Exactly. It's the perfect game for me.
Yeah. Chris, I feel like you really shouldn't have taken up golf. It's a game that gets in your head, you know, and I suppose that's why you're sat here, Tom.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But okay, right. We will. I think we've touched on some good stuff that I think anybody could literally just take that out into the course right now. Is there anything you would advise to somebody if they do get into this negative spiral? We've all had it. We've all had a blow up hole, and what happens? That bleeds into the next 2 or 3, and then you probably give your head a bit of a wobble. You have a word with yourself, go, and you probably say the magic words. Just go, come on, I'm here on a Friday morning with my mates. Just enjoy it, and then you start playing well again.
Or your card's gone then, and you just free up, don't you?
You free up.
I've been hard now.
I'm not putting it in now. You know, that's it. And at the start you went, I'm not putting the card in. Then you play a couple of good holes. You go, I'll put a card in now, and then you go, no, I'm throwing it away.
Yeah.
But is there anything that you
can't
would
do
advise?
That. You've got to put your in advance. You've got to declare that you're going to do a card.
Don't you?
Come on, mate. I would never do that.
I'd never do that either. It's just hypothetically, if that's what you were.
Someone else might
somebody
do it.
might do that. Yeah. But what would you suggest for somebody to do to try and almost negate that bleeding into the next? We're all going to have a blow up hole, of course we are.
Yeah.
And that's relative. It could be a 6 and a par 4, and you think that's terrible. But is there anything you think we should be looking to do?
The first thing is don't expect yourself just to go out and be able to do that, as in if you've not thought about how you want to do it or you've not practiced it. So if you split it up into like before a round, like almost to try and prevent that happening. So even if you had 3 mini goals for a round, might be specific to your game. It might be how you want to feel. You know, if someone's really like an overthinker and they're thinking about the actual side of the swing, I'd often say, how do you want to feel? How do you feel when you play your best golf? And it might be like free or powerful or athletic or whatever. Right? Well, chase that feeling when you're actually playing then, rather than this. And beforehand, just have a little bit, I would call it like a mental framework. Like, how am I going to respond in certain situations? I played with someone the other day and he said, oh yeah, I was in the trees and I thought, am I doing this? Am I doing that? And in the end, I did neither. So before the round, have a bit of a plan. And ideally, practice a bit of that. So if you're on the range, practice having a reset routine or whatever. I'll talk a bit about that. And then actually in the moment, like it depends on your, like sometimes you can have something funny that can kind of reset you a little bit or whatever. But the best one, if you're going to put like a bit of a framework for it, I would have it as release, reset, refocus, as in split it up into 3 things. So release for me would be something physical. Almost, it could be, for instance, like just releasing the tension, you know, like shaking it out. Yeah. It could be putting a club away or taking your glove off, those kind of things, right?
Throwing your putter in the river. That's a good
something
release,
like that. Yeah. So something physical to release that tension. Could be breathing, could be, like I say, releasing that. It could be something to do with your golf equipment. And then reset being something physical that's almost, like you might be putting your glove back on. It might be, if it was you hear like rugby players, footballers, they might pull their socks up or, something just to bring yourself back.
Like a
so
trigger
something
back into,
physical, It could be a breath again. So sometimes people use breathing for that. And then refocus could just be another word like, what's important now? What's my intention? Like, so splitting it up into 3 things and then practicing that.
Yeah.
And it might not mean your next shot is amazing, but hopefully it makes it okay.
Yeah.
And then your next shot after that is like, oh, I'm back on it now.
Yeah.
So don't just hope that you can do it.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
Like, just have a little. I mean, if you talk about that release, reset, refocus, we're talking what, 10 seconds?
Yeah.
If you practice it.
Yeah.
And you want to get to a point where it almost feels like you can just retrieve that from your brain quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just becomes natural and becomes part of what you do, like a pre-shot routine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've got to practice it in order to do that.
It's interesting because I was going to ask you, because I used to have a set of routines that I used to use a long time ago.
Yeah.
I can't even get my brain anywhere close to doing that.
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
not even close. And I don't know whether that's, maybe it's just not practicing it, right? It's not, you're not doing it very regularly. But also, I think nowadays I've got kids and I've got work and I've got life kind of going on outside of that.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you do to kind of make that transition from I'm coming away from home and I'm going onto the golf course? What, like, as something to do to start yourself off?
I think
positive mindset.
That stuff we talked about, having those 3 mini goals or a feeling to chase, would apply there.
Yeah.
I think people could use some kind of grounding, breathing, simple stuff like that. It's more about, this stuff should not take hours.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not like going to the range and grinding on your game.
Yeah.
It's things that you can actually feed into all that side of things. So if you've got a 10-minute drive, it might be, I'm just going to listen to the radio. That might be you. That's fine, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to overthink either. So it's getting the balance right for that individual. So again, like, I wouldn't say to you, like, right, you need to go back to all those routines. Because sometimes you have someone who has so many routines, they actually lose the ability to play.
Yeah.
They're almost like a robot. So you become so logical and so precise and so kind of meticulous that you're, I had one extra practice stroke there. And you, with those people, you want to go, chill out.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Trust your instinct, trust your gut a bit.
Yeah.
So you might have a routine, like a pre-shot routine or a pre-round routine. Mm-hmm. It's like a footballer, if something goes wrong and they've put the left shin pad on before the right or whatever, and it goes out the window, whereas it's like, it's okay. If you've got 10 minutes or if you've got 20 minutes, just to have that freedom within that framework. So if you are someone who's very routine-based, there is an element, if that becomes too intense, that can hold you back as well, because you become rigid.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're hitting a creative chip shot, or you've got to try and see it, or it's a long putt or a short putt, like I remember with one player saying, I've had too many practice strokes. Like, well, does it matter? You've had an extra one because there was some part of you're an expert in golf, and your gut was telling you needed to do an extra one. That's cool.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's about letting go of those routines as well. Depends where your starting point is. So it's like, if you've got no routines or frameworks, you should probably have a couple of simple ones, to put it simply. And if you've got loads and different one for your driver and your irons and and it gets a bit constrained, try and free up a little bit. So sometimes if you're practicing, and there'll be some serious amateur golfers, right? And they'll go and structure their practice. I'd say put 10 minutes of play in there where you're just playing with different shots. So you're on the short game and you just, because going back to being a kid and you're being curious and playful and you're working things out, go for that. So there's a few things in there. Yeah, fun.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because no one really cares how you play apart from you.
Yeah,
like
correct.
when we're talking about it's the spotlight effect in psychology. Like, you think everyone's looking at you. You're on the first tee, everyone's watching, and in reality no one cares.
Well, so somebody sent me, I had a very public meltdown in a bunker in Carnoustie.
I think I saw that
and
on
a couple of my mates.
I'm trying to get everyone to see that.
They're not golfers.
It's a great video.
Some of my mates are not golfers. And they're just going, oh, you had a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I still find it genuinely funny. I really
It's
do.
a nice place to be, that, if you can find it funny.
And I was but the guys that we played with, like Paul that we played with, was just, he kept putting his arm around me. He was like, it'd be all right. But I was like, Paul, like,
you don't, I'm not bothered.
With respect, you don't know my mentality. Like, that's gone. It's been consigned to the bin. It doesn't matter now. Just happened the next bunker. But it doesn't affect my enjoyment of the day. Because I think he was like worried, like, oh my god, they're going to now go and do a podcast. and They're going to say they hated Carnoustie.
Yeah, because of this bunker.
Like, nah.
That's part of the challenge.
The moment for me was sitting in the trying to pretend to get in the bird. That's the whole thing for me. But please don't name any names, because at the minute I can't afford a lawsuit. But what's the weirdest superstition you've encountered? Could be in any sport, by the way. It doesn't have to be a golf thing. But is there a superstition where you've just gone, hang on a minute? Because famously, you've got Nadal. Like, you could see him on the tennis court, couldn't you? Twisting bottles round and all sorts. And then it was like hair, bum, hair, bum, mouth, whatever. And it was like, right, now I'm going to...
Is that planned, though, or is that just him kind of...
I couldn't figit out whether it grown over the years. Every year you added another new Twitch on.
I'm probably gonna give you a
Not
really
seen her.
not few, like sometimes it's like pre-match meals, and you think, well, is that sports science wise? Is that is like beans and cheese on toast the best pre-match meal?
One of the greatest meals ever.
Exactly, yeah, right. But like, so that I always think that stuff's a little bit weird, but
Yeah, not against anything.
in general, no, nothing.
fine,
nothing.
yeah.
I'm sure there will be some. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, I just
No.
thought that golf seems to be a place where you would have weird superstitions.
Yeah.
Because it's such a solitary sport.
Yeah.
there'll be
And you-
like lucky, like your lucky head covers and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and ball markers and things like that. I
Yeah.
imagine they'll be a big part of it.
I'm like massively superstitious.
Yeah.
Like,
So what's your other
so
one?
I've got so, and it changes. Like this is how frequently it changes.
Yeah.
So at the minute, I feel like I can't play a good round unless I'm using my plug Gleneagles pitch mark repairer.
Oh, okay.
I've only had that since March, but I've played plenty of good rounds before that. You know. Well, it wasn't
Yeah.
even
What
that,
did you
it was
do
May.
before it?
Yeah, before like what did I do? You know, that kind of thing, and it's just like, what is that all about?
Yeah,
It's so
yeah,
weird.
yeah.
And then things like, so I have my phone in my back pocket,
Yeah.
and when you're saying about reset and doing something physical, let it go,
Yeah.
whatever. So sometimes, like, I always have it in my right back pocket.
Yeah.
Sometimes just not hitting the ball well, and it's like, I'll just change it. Still don't hit it well. I'll change it back, and then I
It's
hit
where
one right.
I've
and you're
reset
like,
now.
That's
Yeah,
it. It's
yeah,
done
yeah.
it, and it's weird, isn't it, how that thing
Yeah.
works? So,
Yeah.
you know what you're talking about, Tom?
People are just, if you think about it, human beings are just they're very hard to measure, even though that's kind of sometimes what I try and do with like profiling and things like that. But we're all a bit quirky and a bit kind of inconsistent and chaotic.
Yeah.
And if it works, it works. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd be stealing that pitch repairer.
I
And,
have to-
just
yeah,
just
yeah.
hiding
I
it.
just
See
took
the
it on the way
response.
here,
Yeah.
Don't worry, mate. I bought about 20 since I realised that was a
Yeah.
superstition.
Yeah,
I was just
but
like,
no,
what?
no real standout strange ones. To be fair, that's not that spring to mind anyway.
That's interesting.
I'm sure there'll
isn't
be
it?
some in rugby league, but they just
interesting.
probably hide it well.
So just kind of getting more specific about people and golf and psychology. Obviously, you've done a bit of work with Tommy Fleetwood as well. Just describe a little bit and kind of the work that you've done with him. And obviously, recently his performances are going through the roof, and he just looks like he's on a real upward trajectory.
Is Tommy
isn't he?
Fleetwood the most loved man in golf at the moment? Like, everybody loves him.
Yeah, I worked with Tommy. We were saying before, like I think 2013 or 2014, early on when he came on tour, and then we stopped, and then we started again in 2017, and we did till 2022. So not working with him now. So, but obviously time passes, and you're just so happy for him because
Of course.
he probably is the most loved man in golf, and you could see the reception in the States from him that, obviously he got that win. And if he hadn't got that win, that would have been something they would have probably been shouting at him at Bethpage. But everyone was just happy for him. And I don't know, because I've known him since before he obviously had that fame. And he probably is. He's someone who really grows in a team environment. As you can see,
Looks like
even
it.
from Paris, he just kind of he almost likes that
I think he looks
responsibility.
physically
Yeah.
bigger,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
actually. He's almost hunched over a bit when he's
Yeah.
on his own, but then he's...
Body language is a funny one, because I think like Rory McIlroy's body language to Tommy Fleetwood's body language, your starting point is very different. There's no point expecting him to be like him or vice versa. But in terms of his approach, I guess, like he's just someone he thinks a lot. He's very reflective. He's quite calm, so he's quite consistent in terms of the people that he works with and how he approaches the game. A lot of people in the game, I think, see somebody else doing something and go, I need to do that.
Yeah.
I need that gadget.
Copy it.
I need that. Yeah. And I think he's just really comfortable in his own skin now. And realizing that you're enough as you are. As
That's
a
the
human.
Molinari effect, I think. It's the whole Mollywood thing.
Quite possibly. But, like that thing about being part of a team and that responsibility, for some reason, some people grow with it.
Yeah.
And whether it's because I'm doing it for this lot, I'm not just doing it for myself.
Yeah.
Whether it's that match play, it frees you up in terms of like it would free someone else up because that hole's gone and just reset. But just a really good human being, I would say. And it's a little bit like we said about Luke. Yeah, he's a really nice guy, but he also has this like dog in him.
Yeah,
where
I
there's a real grit and
Yeah.
toughness to him.
Yeah.
Where you kind of make no mistake, to do what he's done, there is that side of him
You've
as
got to
well.
have that.
Yeah.
You can't just nice guy your way around professional sport.
No.
Like,
No, but
it's got to be something.
there's
in
also
there.
that realization that you can be nice a lot of the time and still win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now he's won that one, and he's won another one since. He's.
But it's interesting you're saying about the what would have come up at Bethpage had
Yeah,
he not
yeah,
won.
yeah. Yeah.
Because I went on a couple of American podcasts
Yeah.
previewing the Ryder Cup, and actually they all said we're so happy that Tommy's actually won forget all the rivalry or whatever, but just everyone's really happy about it. But yeah, you better believe that would have come up.
It's a pretty cool story, because I don't think there's any good stories that don't have that struggle. Yeah. And there were times where you're like, because your whole family gets like kind of feels part of it. So my kids have grown up kind of watching him and, wanting him to do well. And, I FaceTimed home at Bethpage and he walked in the background. I was like, oh, you're right, and so they've kind of all been part of that journey.
Yeah.
Like my mum and dad, everyone. And you don't get that connection if they're not a good person.
Yeah.
You don't have that same kind of, I don't know, empathy or connection with that story.
Not that link with that person, do you?
Yeah.
Just like,
You work with someone for a long time and you just understand them as a human being, and then you just want them to get what they deserve, and he has, and I'm sure he'll carry on doing so.
Another thing that came up just when I was remembering the podcast, so we were talking about the VR headset. So that did actually, the first time I heard about that was on a podcast. So they basically just chucked a question at me and they went, we've heard these reports about the European Ryder Cup team.
Yeah.
And the comment they made was, oh, this is hilarious. They went, I guarantee you, no matter what you're playing in your ears, that's going to be 20 times worse when you actually get to Bethpage.
There was some pretty bad stuff in
was
that.
There? Was there? How, like, I mean, I'm actually... Well, then you could divulge this or not, I don't know, but what do they do? Do they get somebody in a studio to record just like...
I think so, yeah.
Look at this Irish man's face. That's Rory could be
there,
anyone.
probably got drink 10 pints
and just abuse him. Is that what it is?
Well...
How'd you get that gig? Like,
who's done that? Who's done that gig? I mean, I don't know who did it, and I heard some snippets of it, and I think they were asked, "What's the line?" and they said there is no line.
Yeah,
so you can just go with what you want, and then the player gets to have that choice. So
now,
I reckon they'd have gone pretty close to whatever.
To the bone, really.
And the other thing with the fans, like our fans, and I guess is like there's more banter to it, isn't there? So there's a bit more kind of nuanced at times.
Personal,
it's not personal, but like if you're getting our team to think that through, like what could we say to these guys? They'll be pretty sharp on it, I imagine.
Didn't they get each other to like just get it one out now? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that wasn't my gig, but it's
fascinated to know who.
It'd be great to hear that audio, wouldn't it? Yeah. You'd have to ask. You'd have to get one of the players on.
That'll never.
I don't know. I don't know. That like they talked about it, didn't they? So
yeah, it was interesting. This is almost like it's really, really well planned. But one of the people that was quite critical about the potential barracking they were going to get pre-Ryder Cup was Matt Fitzpatrick, because his parents didn't go over, and he said they found it was over.
Whistling Straits was bad.
Straits was bad. Yeah. What's Matt Fitzpatrick like as a character? Because he feels like he's just like you can't see him. And I don't mean it disrespectfully to Matt at all. He does not fit the stereotype of an elite top of his game sportsman. He's just like your mate next door who just happens to be very good at something.
Yeah.
That's it. And he's so relatable, that guy.
Yeah, I'd say so. Like very, obviously well published. Like he's into his data and analytics, and he works closely with Eduardo on that side of things. He'll get his confidence from that preparation.
Yeah.
There is that element as well, like we've said with a few of them. He's going to be tough. He's going to, he's going to have that ability to manage himself under pressure. It's just it's quieter. So it's not confrontational. Maybe like some people will go head to head with someone. It's more going back to his process.
Yeah.
But there's definitely an element of that kind of, because he looks so young as well. Like 2016 was his first one.
When he stood on the tee next to Bryson when they were going off in the singles, I was like, this is literally just like
it's the most
polar opposites, isn't it? And
it's
he's like
such a different
time.
What a matchup that was. And he was on it, wasn't he, at the start?
But then he absolutely annihilated him, didn't he, for the first 7 or 8 holes.
Yeah.
He was all over it.
And that is it.
Quietly went about it.
We'll make judgments on people based on like how they look. I mean, we were on the, what hole was it? 13th, 14th. It was like the par 3. I think it was the easiest hole in the course in the practice. And he was chipping from the side. I think this was on Instagram or something, and he was chipping this, like, got a tough shot from this kind of rough, and there's a guy behind him going, and he's hitting one and he's duffed it and he's going no, and then he's hitting another one, he's like no, And like, there's a guy behind him. And to be fair, he's just laughing. So Matt's just laughing. You can imagine maybe someone will get a bit annoyed or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they're like, nice sketches and all this kind of stuff. And he's just laughing it off. So, and he's quite happy. What I found interesting was if that was me, I'd go, I'm not hitting this shot again. I'll almost just go, oh, hopefully it won't happen.
Yeah.
And he just stuck with it. And then when he got it, they're all cheering and things like that. And he's not someone I've had a huge amount of time with.
Yeah.
But what I would say about the whole group is you kind of just think they're just good people. But honestly, you can and you can see that from like the party they have and the way they interact with people in the backroom staff, and they just seem like a good group they are a good group to be around. There's no ego. There will be ego in that room.
Of course there is.
But when you're talking to them about other things, you know, that they would say, oh, what's it like working in rugby? Or, oh, okay, like, because they have this respect for team sports as well. So once you get speaking to them like that, in that bubble, just normal guys, really. Have a bit of a laugh and, you know, they enjoy a beer afterwards and a bit of a celebration and,
I don't know if you can really go into this too much, but in terms of how do you gather like the personality types and the data on those people, like, is that something that's readily available, or is that something that you go out and physically? We use
different tools, like online tools and things like that, where the guys fill them in and then that sits alongside. Kind of.
It's a one-word question. Are you a nice person?
Yes.
You're in.
But are you also pretty tough as well? So you know, you can't just be too nice.
If somebody said this to you, how would you? You know, that kind of.
It's honestly, it's around understanding where someone starts from, and also you've got to understand that like the individual, the human being, might be slightly different to the golfer.
Yeah.
So people go, oh, this is a cautious individual. But you see them on a golf course taking risks. And you're like, yeah, but it's a calculated risk. And they've practiced that shot over and over again. It's actually not a risk to them because they're very good at doing it. So they might have had a really logical process to be able to hit this risky shot. But we see the behaviour and go, they're a risk taker. So it's just where they start from, understanding that and understanding how that will then show up under pressure.
I mean, you said about Rose before when he played that amazing shot. And you don't know. Like in his head, he's just going, well, I mean, we couldn't see the lie, but like the ball's lying well. And if I have a full swing at this is absolutely on my lob wedge distance. So to the hole, like, so he's like, I can't believe this. This is amazing. Just to have a full, you know, you don't know that calculation, but you're right. To us, it was like under that pressure. What a miraculous shot that was. How did
well, you're thinking, what would I do? And you're like, well, I'll probably duff it, or I'd probably yourself, you know,
put yourself.
And then you go, oh, it's Justin Rose. Okay.
He'll be fine.
He's done it before.
He's probably quite good at this.
Knows what he's doing.
But still to be able to then get it as close as they did, and like you said, that with the responses, it just seemed to be one after the other on those first few days where they were just... And sometimes you do get that, don't you? You get a team that's really well prepared, they're very good at what they do, they're really well connected, they've got a sense of purpose, and it just clicks. And there is a bit of fortune in that, and it goes your way, and you know, and that's why it didn't kind of probably carry on all the way through the Sunday, because you're coming up against a very good team as well.
Right, so Tom, obviously you're on the Top 110 Golf podcast.
Yep.
Worldwide famous and all that kind of stuff. But which of the top 100 courses have you played in the past, and which is your favourite?
Obviously, there's different lists, isn't there? So you know, I know the list that you're going off doesn't have Woburn in it, so because that would have been in for me.
I know.
The two that stand out. So we talked about it before. Portrush, that's got a special place from a point of view of the course is amazing. I've kind of battled with it and I kind of feel all right with it now. But just stunning views, like the elevation, and then just the people of that place. I just, like, me and my whole family just love that place.
They're friendly.
But that's a big reason, a big part of the reason that we're doing this is because I went to Portrush and was like, stood on the road above and just looked down. And I was like, I've got to go and play that golf course. It just looks incredible.
It's the one that so I didn't play it this year, just gone. And I you have that like, I've missed out. I need to go and play it. Hopefully a couple of times this year. And the other one for me round here, like Hillside. I'm assuming that's on there, right?
Hillside's on.
Hillside's got to be on there. So just a really good, like, so welcoming. It feels just like a normal golf course when you go and you have that welcome. But obviously you play it, the contrasting front and back nines. So I've been fortunate to play that. That would be right up there as well.
Looks like a cracking course as well.
Yeah. And again, it's the people, because they welcome you. There's not that kind of. You just feel, I don't know whether it's because it's up here, up in the north or whatever, but just...
We'll take that.
Yeah.
It's because it's up in the north.
Stunning course. Stunning course, good people. They would be my top two. So
excellent.
Are they still to be played?
Both still to be played. Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. Got a treat. Looking forward to those two courses. So, well, Tom, look, thank you. Thanks for bringing in... Now, if you're listening to this episode, get on YouTube because Tom's actually brought some bits and bobs from the Ryder Cup that he's brought. So he's got a scarf, we've got a cushion, we've got a towel. Towel's one of my favourite things to bring, and obviously there's Tom's book as well.
I'm revealing all the things that you kind of steal while you're there.
Yeah.
No, like to be fair, the stash is some of the best, like the exciting bit as well. But
of course it is.
Yeah, it was all given. It wasn't stolen. Honest.
Assumed. Yeah, that's it. But thanks for your time today, Tom.
Cheers, Tom.
We both absolutely loved our chat.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to pop links to your site and your book as well on the description.
Cool.